right, we are
Yep,
now
I see recording.
live. We are recording. We are in business. So
technology miracle.
Yes, it's a technology miracle we're having. Congratulations. Welcome, Katie. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
This is fun because Katie is a client of mine and she's had massive success. And, you know, it's not all because of me. It's because of her. She's an amazing implementer. So she had posted a blog and it was like how I grew. The one thing that helped me grow my business 155% in 1 month. So I definitely tell you to go check out her blog, katiewright.com. Did I get that right?
Yep.
So Katie is a former therapist, copywriter, and now she coaches therapists to become therapreneurs. So this is an amazing niche because there's a lot of therapists that are out there struggling in their offices doing one-on-one after one-on-one after one-on-one after one-on-one, and they're going insane. And they have a lot more gifts to share with the world because the things that they're doing with their one-on-one clients is working, but they're only able to help one person at a time in their tiny little town or wherever their city is that they're working at. So Katie saw this need in the market and really went after it. So I'm really excited. So tell our audience a little bit about your background and we'll dig in.
Sure. Yeah. So I am, like you said, I've been a licensed therapist for many years. I had a million different jobs. You know, I did the private practice thing. I also worked at various agencies. I was a director at various nonprofits. I taught grad school as an adjunct professor. So I had kind of had positions all around this industry for a long time. And then I had kids and I pulled back from working. And so, you know, like, it's just kind of how life goes. You go from one position to the next. Well, eventually we were living in California and that's where I first became licensed. We moved with my husband's job out to Arizona, and it's very challenging for licensed therapists to move around the country because the states don't coordinate with each other.
Yeah.
So for quite a long time, I was trying to get relicensed in Arizona, and it was this very long process and taking new licensure exams and all these things. And I started actually editing an online psychology magazine during that time. Someone offered me a position, just very part-time, editing this psychology magazine, and I loved it. And I'd always been a writer. You know, I was an English major back in the day, 2 million years ago when I was in college. So I'd always been a writer. I loved writing. I loved editing. And I really found, I was like, you know, I have a lot of skill for helping people transform their voice from this more scholarly voice that therapists are taught to write in, because we're all busy writing dissertations and papers and all these lofty things in grad school, into a voice that would work well on the internet. And that it's
not the same voice at all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the same voice at all.
Yeah, and like this is one of these things that it doesn't come that naturally. And I always say it's almost harder the more educated you are, because the more you've gone through the school system and you've had like these certain formats trained into you, it's hard to rediscover your natural voice and your conversational tone. So long story short, I love doing that. I started studying copywriting, and I started specifically thinking, I really want to be a copywriter for therapists, because most therapist websites, Stacey, they suck. Like, they suck. We're not taught how to do websites well, and we all think it's got to be our calling card, and we write websites that are like, I went to school at this place, and I studied all these things, and I have these 37, you know, certifications, and the clients don't care. Like, we're not talking to the clients about what they care about and their pain and their hope and all of those things. And so that's what I wanted to go do.
I think that's important there. That's, you know, for people that are watching today or listening on the podcast, that, you know, not talking to your prospects or clients is a huge no-no. And that's something that, you know, people, especially with something like therapy, because it's such a personal thing, you need to connect with this person. So if you're not connecting with them right away on the website, you've lost them.
Right. Completely. And I've had clients say to, like, when I was in private practice, and this is even before I had really like studied copywriting, I would have clients come to me and be like, I read 150 websites and then I finally got to yours, and it was the only one that like spoke to me a little bit.
Wow.
And so
that was the real problem, that they stuck in there that long to find you.
They were like, next, you know, like, where's my person? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so I really thought I wanted to go be a copywriter, and I bought some courses that taught me how to create an online business, how to create a website. Like I started building. And it was nerve-wracking, which I'm sure all your people know, because when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, to me, the hardest part of any of it, it's not learning the skills. It's not any of the background that you need to do. It's that you are now putting yourself out there in a much more visible and therefore vulnerable position. You are now saying, here I am, this is what I'm doing. You're putting it out on Facebook, you're putting it out on blog posts. You know, this is what I see all the time now in my clients, is that it's that nervousness of, I will happily put this stuff out to strangers, but I just don't really want my mother-in-law to see it, or my ex-boyfriend to see it, or whoever it is.
Or the person on their kid's soccer team, the mom
yes,
soccer team.
Exactly. Because it's really vulnerable putting yourself out there, whatever you're doing. And no matter what you're doing, you're kind of putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I need work. And I need money, you know, and that's like the bottom line of it, right? That we all want to be like, I'm fine, I don't need anything. The reality is, to be able to be an entrepreneur, you have to put yourself out there and get visible. And that was the vulnerable part. But anyway, so I kicked off. There were not a lot of people doing copywriting for therapists. So I had some business pretty quickly, which was great. And then I made a really pivotal decision, which was I had barely made any money yet. I was still just starting out. But I had heard several times over, no matter how early you are in your business, get a coach, because it'll make all the difference. And I was in a group with you. I had seen you posting several places. I really admired your online presence, and I reached out to you. And that was a great decision for me, because I needed someone. And it's funny because I didn't know at the time that really your clients were like Fortune 500 CEOs, like little me in my living room, you know.
Not really, not Fortune 500 CEOs, more like a lot of high 6 and 7 figure businesses, and now some 8 figures. But the thing is, it's like you actually reached out even though you're really scared, which is amazing.
Yeah,
a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, and I was nervous to reach out. And it was one of those lessons in like, just do it anyway, because I happened to call you when you had just done a presentation for people like me, for female entrepreneurs starting out. And you were like, I just so happened to have this like scholarship slot at a lesser price available, because I never could have afforded your full fee. And I didn't know that when I called you, but never. And so you happened to have a lower fee slot available at that time. I just got really lucky. And it was great because I knew that I clicked with you. And people say to me all the time, what should I look for in a coach? And I'm like, just click with them. Like, that's really what it comes down to, because at the end of the day, like the energy is just everything. And yes, you'll find different coaches to teach you different things throughout your life. And some of them are more like consultants where you'll learn business stuff from them, but you need to click. Like that's the most important.
For sure. So share with the group here, because, you know, we said that you increased your business 155% in a month. You are already doing good. And, you know, you have 2 little kids at home. So, you know, looking back at our notes, it's like, I only had, like you told me, I only have between this time and this time to work on my business. So I just want to throw that out there for people like, well, she probably like grind and, you know, killed herself and all of that. Like you had some parameters that you're like, I have my kids in school. I have to go pick them up. 2, you know, very, you know, boys, you know, that need a lot of attention.
Right.
So tell me where you were when we started and how that.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a weird schedule right now because I have a 2nd grader and a preschooler. Both of my kids actually have special needs. And so my preschooler is in 2 different programs, a morning program and an afternoon program, on 2 opposite sides of 2 neighboring suburbs.
Oh my gosh.
And my house is sort of in the middle of where these 2 different programs are. So it makes my schedule kind of nuts. Like I get them ready for school, do the whole, I will tell you my schedule now. Typically I wake up around 5 because that's when my preschooler wakes up, and I do usually start working right then. Like I get on, I check emails, I see what's going on since yesterday. I do any little things that I can. I also do mindset journaling, and I try to do that every day. So I'll try to do that in that early morning time. Then, you know, it's the whole school rush of like work out, get dressed, get the kids out the door. And then I just have this funny chunk of time. I have from 9:15 to 11:15. That is a work block. Then I'm in the car for at least an hour driving him between his two programs. Then I have like 12:15-ish to 2:15, and that's a work block. And then it's like another hour in the car picking up the kids, and then they're home. So in the beginning, it was more parametered like that. As I've gotten busier, and I will say this is a mistake I made, is I have burned myself out a little bit this year. I got a little too busy. I took on a little too much.
You got so excited that you couldn't help yourself.
Right. Exactly.
Once you saw some success, you're like, okay, I don't care if I'm busy. I'm going to do this anyway.
Right. Well, it is true because it is exciting. Like I had been stay-at-home momming and working very part-time for about 7 years, like a very part-time private practice and just very part-time editing the magazine. And so suddenly I was like, oh, I'm talking to adults again and I'm earning money and it's all so exciting and I love it. So yes, all of that is true.
So what was your best month since we started working together?
My best month was about 18K, and that was November. And I launched my business in June.
Right. And we started working together at the end of August because I remember we were like, okay, I came back from vacation and you're like, oh, I want to start right away. So we did 2 sessions at the very end of August. So from August to November, that was huge. And you had already had great results in October.
Yeah, I had good results in October. I think my business kind of jumped. I went from I think I made $1,600 my first month, June, when I was just doing some copywriting and website stuff for friends at like super cheap discounts. And then I remember I went up, I think it went something like 1,600 and then like 3K, 7K. And then I went 16, 18, and now we're in the middle of December and I'm at about 13 right now. So it's like the business has grown a lot. There were different decisions that helped that. One is that I rediscovered how much I love doing groups. And I found that, you know, in the beginning, you were really like, okay, you need to just get on the phone a lot, get these one-on-one clients going. And we should talk about my pivot too, because I was doing copywriting.
Right. That's exactly. So that's a big thing that, you know, you were in one niche and you created these results with a completely different niche. It wasn't like you've been in this niche for 10 years and all of a sudden you ramped it up. You switched gears and we looked at like how much time you had available and how you need to leverage and scale this. And it was like, okay, shifting niches, shifting like focus. We're not doing the one-on-one. We need to get more leverage.
Yes, absolutely. And you were very instrumental in that because I felt like I can write and I can do copy and people are happy when I do their copywriting. So therefore I have to keep doing it. And I had this sense of like responsibility. And you were one of the first to point out when I would have a coaching session with a client where I would just do marketing coaching, I loved it. And I would get really excited and it would be so great. Then when I had to go off alone in a room for like 4 hours and write somebody's website copy, it would bring me down. And I was starting to like dread it and avoid it. And I was just not fed by the actual act of the copywriting itself. I was fed by the interaction. By the coaching. So
that's a takeaway here for people that are listening or watching is that you need to look at what the energy is of what you're doing. So like, is it giving you more energy or sucking your energy? And that was the challenge that Katie had is she was doing well at copywriting. People loved her copywriting. She's amazing at copywriting. But the challenge is it was sucking all of her energy. And as a mom of 2 small kids and, you know, all of that, you cannot have something that's sucking your energy. So that was a really brave thing to go towards what gave you joy, even though it felt comfortable to stay in that copywriting spot.
Yeah. And it was hard for about a month because people were starting to get to know me as a copywriter. I was still pretty new and people were referring people to me. And that first month or so, people would call me and I'd be like, well, now I'm doing coaching and I can still help with your copy, but it's going to be in this coaching model. And it was like, click, 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 you know? And I was
because they wanted it done for them.
They just wanted it done for them, which I understand.
And that was a really brave moment because it was scary. I remember in the coaching sessions, it was a scary time because it was like, I have leads, but they want me to do it for them. And we're like, okay, here's the line in the sand and you need to put your line down. And then it really blew up with your groups. And then also like from the group, you're like, okay, what's the next step? And so that was a big lesson for a lot of the people listening is it's not just about doing one thing. It's doing one thing and then saying, okay, what's the next thing on their journey? And that's why, like you said, I'm a little busier than I wanted, because you actually took advantage of all the people and all this wanting the next step with you.
Right. Well, it was interesting. You talk a lot when you're building a business about what is the client journey. And in a way, the first group I created was sort of a group for people who were maybe in the middle already of my ideal client journey. So I created a group for therapists who were already thinking, I don't just want to come to my tiny little private practice office for the next 30 years and do nothing else. So I was creating a group for people to say, let's explore what else you can do. Do you want to be a coach? Do you want to lead retreats? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to create a course? Like, let's explore all the possibilities and bring them forward for you so that you can play with those. And you know, it was funny. Some of those clients were former copywriting clients, and they had just clicked and they had kept following me, and they were like, actually, that's me, you know? And so they went from there, and that group went wonderfully. And they were I truly believe in the energy of manifesting. And I like had a number in my head of how many I wanted, and I wanted them to be just the perfect clients, all women, a certain age, a certain experience. And that's who came in. And it was like one of those magical moments, and they loved each other. And so several of them are continuing now. We're doing a continuation mastermind program for the people who are ready to really get real. Like, they've got the idea. Now they need to implement. But I also realized there's a lot of clients that are not quite at that point in their journey. So the second group I created, I actually went backwards. And I said, okay, there are therapists out there who just are desperate for clients. What is a marketing group that I can put together that hasn't been done a million times? So I created a group to teach them. Here's what I did. I said to them, I bootstrapped every part of my business. I have 2 kids with special needs. I was not going to take away from our limited family income on this chance that I might be able to grow a business. So I had taught myself to do Facebook for free and get clients from it. And I had taught myself how to send emails and get calls from the emails I sent. So I was like, I'm going to teach therapists this stuff, like how to bootstrap your marketing when you really don't have enough clients yet. Like, you're not paying for Google ads because you don't have that money yet.
Right. You can't waste, I mean, so many people have wasted so much, myself included, on Facebook marketing and ads. And it's like, Facebook could be set. Like, I remember doing ads, and I was looking at the people who were liking my stuff, and they were working in Walmart. And I'm like, how is this the right targeting for people that are business owners? I've very specifically set up the targeting, and I even paid people to do Facebook ads for me, and I was still getting crappy leads.
Right.
It's crazy. So I appreciate that fact. But I want to point out something here for the people that are listening and watching, is that we didn't start with the entry-level program. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of business owners do that do online marketing and online programs, is they want to start a membership site. They want to start like an easy $97, $300, like they think it's easier to sell something at a lower price. But what I advise Katie to do is, like, don't start with the lower end, because those are the people that don't have the money. And those are the people that probably aren't going to take action as much as the people that are already successful. So by starting her group with the people that were already successful, they invested more, they were further along in the journey. She was able to get amazing results that she filled her group. She was able to get amazing results for the people in the group that they, like, I'm having so much fun just seeing the people in your group, how much they love you, how much they're engaged. And that leads me to the next thing, is that you are a master at Facebook Lives and engagement. So I really would love to get your tips for the listeners that are business owners in doing Facebook Lives and some of that organic stuff that you're doing. So could you share some of the tips that you've been teaching your people?
And I'm going to jump back for 1 second and say, you had to do much more than just suggest to me that I not start with a $97 program. This is probably the most regular theme of my coaching with Stacey, is that I'm like, I should really put something out for like $12. And she's like, knock it off,
I do the virtual whack upside the head, and it seems to work.
It's true, because I had such an ingrained scarcity mindset, and I was coming from a very typical therapist mindset, because a lot of therapists, they're maybe making 50K, working 50, 60 hours a week, collecting $60 from insurance companies for 2 or 3 hours of work, and it's a hard life. It's a hard life. And so I was deeply in that scarcity mindset, and it was only eventually doing the work on myself and having the example for myself that I poured a lot of money into my own coaching. Therefore, I want people like me. Like, I want people who, and when I poured that money into you, and I later joined a coaching group that was quite expensive also, I said to myself, I am more than making this money back. And I made it like a non-negotiable. Like, I am going to hustle, I'm going to implement, I'm going to use my creativity and figure out how I'm going to make this money back and then some. And that was I have kids. Like, I'm not throwing money away. I refuse to do it. I just refuse.
No, it's not just the money you're throwing away, but also the time. Like you said before, I'm not taking the time away from my family and away from my kids. And I'm not throwing the money away. So being an action taker, you've excelled at that. And I take my hat off to you, because that's the kind of person that gets results, because they're not willing to, mess around.
Right. And I definitely was not. I was like, I'm going to make this work. Damn it.